Amazing. And this leads us to a very fundamental argument, which I would say is something that we suspended because of the importance of the conversation this evening. It has to do with a video that emerged on social media with Camto actually making preposterous statement. This is long, and this is where we'll conclude. I want us to listen to it again, resurface it, and argue it step by step. Is very important because it would appear a lot of Ambazonians typically do not even understand what Kamto was saying. And he said so manipulatively, not just to dissuade those who have chosen not to learn, but also to continue the miseducation that the Franco-Cameroon hegemony has been promulgating in the Cameroons. Let's hear him.
La légitimité des
Oui,
réclamations.
je crois que c'est un débat technique. Non pas que vous ne puissiez pas comprendre la technique, qui prendrait beaucoup de temps à expliquer ici. Me poser la question de cette manière demanderait que j'aille aux origines. Non pas jusqu'en 1884, on peut simplement prendre le fait très rapidement qu'en 1884, il y a un État qui est né qui s'appelle le Cameroun avec K. Et qui est à presque 800 000 km². Nous n'en avons plus que 475 000 km. Ça me prendrait beaucoup de temps d'expliquer pourquoi nous n'avons que 475 000. Et c'était de 1884 jusqu'en 1916, sous le protectorat allemand. Et lorsque l'Allemagne perd la guerre en Europe, c'est pour cela que j'ai toujours dit que le Cameroun a perdu la guerre avec l'Allemagne. Parce que lorsque l'Allemagne perd la guerre en Europe, il y a un condominium franco-britannique qui s'installe sur le Cameroun. De 1916 jusqu'en 1922, c'est un condominium qui n'est pas encore régi par des textes internationaux. C'est les deux puissances victorieuses de la guerre qui se mettent ensemble pour dire, bon, toi tu prends les 2 tiers, moi je prends les 1 tiers. C'est comme ça. Seulement nous commençons à partir de ce moment-là à perdre notre territoire. C'est là que le Cameroun va voir sa superficie se rétrécir. Parce que le premier réflexe des puissances coloniales, en particulier de la France, c'est d'enlever du Cameroun, d'amputer le Cameroun de toutes les concessions territoriales faites en Allemagne en 1911, lors du coup d'Agadir en Afrique du Nord. C'est pour cela que vous voyez que le Cameroun était vraiment comme une femme bien enceinte. Hein, voilà. Mais on a diminué la longueur. Donc c'était des jumeaux. Maintenant c'est resté un seul enfant. Dans le bec du canard allait jusqu'au Logon, jusqu'au Chari, pardon, jusqu'au Chari. On l'a ramené au Logon. Le nord du Gabon était au Cameroun. Et une partie du Congo-Brazzaville, était au Cameroun. Donc tout le ventre de la Centrafrique était au Cameroun. Donc voilà comment nous perdons donc ces concessions territoriales. Et à partir de là, les deux parties du territoire évoluent séparément, mais sous le même régime international. Le mandat de 1922 à 1945, puis la tutelle de 1945 à 1960. Et en 1960, le Cameroun francophone, comme on dit le Cameroun oriental, accède à l'indépendance le 1er janvier, mais sans la partie anglophone. Parce que dès lors qu'il y avait deux puissances administrantes, chacune de ces puissances avait l'obligation internationale, parce que nous n'avons jamais été une colonie, je tiens à le souligner de 1013, avait l'obligation devant les Nations Unies de conduire le territoire sous tutelle à l'émancipation totale, c'est-à-dire à la souveraineté internationale. Donc, les Français le font sous la pression des nationalistes. Créé en 1948, l'UPC va être contraint à la clandestinité à partir de 1955 et de là lance la guerre de libération. Le combat va être féroce et inégal parce que les troupes françaises rentrant d'Indochine ont perdu la guerre là-bas et n'ont qu'un seul désir en tête, prendre leur revanche sur les révoltés coloniaux des nations nègres. Donc, à partir de là, ça va accélérer l'indépendance. Parce qu'il faut comprendre pourquoi nous sommes les premiers, 1er janvier 1960. Le Cameroun. C'est le premier pays à accéder à l'indépendance, en dehors donc, de la Guinée et du Ghana, quelque chose comme ça. Donc, République du Cameroun, Constitution du 4 mars. Et puis, la partie anglophone va faire, il va y avoir 2 référendums, ou 2 référendums comme vous voulez. On fait en quelque sorte un premier test. On voit que, en réalité, la partie septentrionale, comme la partie, ce qu'on appelait le Northern Cameroon, le Southern Cameroon, sont prêts à rejoindre le Cameroun. On refait le référendum. Et la partie septentrionale va voter pour le rattachement au Nigeria, et la partie sud va voter pour le rattachement au Cameroun. Je rappelle la question qui est posée en 1961. C'est: voulez-vous accéder à l'indépendance en vous rattachant au Nigeria ou en vous rattachant au Cameroun? Parce que si nous voulons faire un débat authentique, il faut dire les choses, les faits historiques tels qu'elles sont posées. C'est dans les documents des Nations Unies. Voulez-vous accéder à l'indépendance en vous rattachant? C'est-à-dire que l'indépendance, ce n'est pas je suis indépendant, après je décide. L'indépendance s'acquiert à travers le choix du rattachement. Oui. Et donc, le Southern Cameroon, sous d'ailleurs la conduite du KNDP, du docteur Djongou Foncha et Augustin Ngomjua, par opposition, n'est-ce pas, au docteur Ndele, qui votait pour le rattachement au Nigeria, vote pour le rattachement au Cameroun. Et donc, le 1er octobre 1961, on fera le rattachement, mais après la conférence de Fumban. Pourquoi je dis que ce serait long? Parce qu'il faut maintenant aller dans la conférence de Fumban, voir ce qui s'est décidé. Et là, les discussions, parce que très souvent, nos frères disent: oui, mais la conférence de Fumban, on nous a trompés. Bon, si on vous a trompé, bon, c'est la faute du trompeur, mais c'est votre faute aussi d'avoir été trompé. Ah oui. Donc, à la conférence de Fumban, en fait, le problème, c'est quoi? C'est qu'il y avait eu plusieurs conférences avant. Bouéa, Bamenda, je crois même Yaoundé, si je me trompe. Et donc, la conférence de Fumban, contrairement à ce que les gens pensent, n'était pas l'unique conférence. Et là où nos frères anglophones ont raison sur un point, c'était qu'il fallait leur donner le projet de constitution avant, pour qu'ils travaillent dessus avant de se rendre à la conférence de Fumban. Mais à Fumban, c'est quand la délégation de nos frères anglophones du Southern Cameroun sont arrivés qu'on leur a remis le projet de constitution. Ils devaient donc l'examiner séance tenante. L'histoire veut d'ailleurs, et c'est pour cela que j'ai toujours considéré, à mes yeux c'est un grand homme, aux yeux de nos frères qui veulent, surtout ceux qui veulent la sécession, c'est pratiquement un traître, Djongou Foncha. La réunification a eu lieu grâce à Foncha. Parce que Foncha a dit, la délégation anglophone a dit: non, de toute façon, on suspend la conférence, nous allons rentrer pour étudier le projet de constitution. Il a dit: non, mes frères, on était des frères avant que les Anglais, les autres viennent nous séparer. On est venu ici nous retrouver entre frères les affaires de contenu de la constitution, là on va voir après. Voilà comment c'est arrivé. Et c'est pour cela que c'est une loi, ce qu'on appelle la constitution de 1961, la constitution fédérale, et là aussi les anglophones ont raison, est simplement une modification de la constitution de 1960, de la République du Cameroun, qui devient la constitution fédérale, 1961. Et donc, on instaure de cette façon-là le fédéralisme au Cameroun, avec un premier ministre du Cameroun occidental, un premier ministre du Cameroun oriental, et un gouvernement fédéral. Je vais sauter, parce que après, en 72, qu'est-ce qui se passe? On dit c'est trop lourd. Mais en réalité, la suppression du fédéralisme était déjà à l'œuvre lorsque, dès 1966, Amadou Ahidjo décide de faire un parti unique. Parce que le système fédéral s'accommode quand même un peu difficilement du parti unique. Et donc, les différents partis qui existaient dans le pays vont fusionner pour ne faire qu'un parti, l'UNC, l'Union nationale camerounaise. Donc on était déjà en réalité en train de sortir, sans le dire très clairement, politiquement du système fédéral. Mais je dois dire, et c'est là que je vais dire à mes frères anglophones, parlons avec sincérité, parce que tout cela s'est fait aussi avec votre participation. Les leaders politiques de la région aussi se sont confrontés et il y a eu des choix. Lorsque il y a eu certains qui avaient des réserves, d'autres étaient favorables, même à la création du parti unique. Et ont eu effectivement des promotions politiques grâce à cette prise de position-là. Et en 1972, quand on dit on va faire l'État unitaire, Aïyo était très malin, très intelligent, ou ses conseillers, j'en sais strictement rien. Mais toujours, est-il qu'il a compris une chose, l'article 47 de la Constitution disait qu'on ne peut pas modifier la forme fédérale de l'État. Donc là aussi, les anglophones ont raison, c'est exact. Mais qu'est-ce qu'il a fait? Il n'est pas passé par l'Assemblée. Il a fait le référendum. Or, le référendum veut dire que tu retournes devant le souverain. Le souverain peut changer son avis. Il avait dit qu'on ne touchera jamais à la forme de l'État. Maintenant, il dit qu'on peut toucher. C'est ça. Voilà tout. Tout le problème vient de là. Parce qu'il y a une interprétation différente entre nos frères et sœurs anglophones et les juristes, enfin un certain nombre de juristes, y compris moi-même sur ce point. Vous dites que le peuple est souverain, c'est pas ça? Donc le peuple est souverain et il utilise sa souveraineté quand il veut, comme il veut. C'est pour cela que sinon il n'y aurait pas de différence entre la procédure législative et la procédure référendaire. Vous allez au référendum parce que vous retournez devant le souverain. Lui qui peut annuler ce qu'il a décidé hier. Donc, tout est parti de là, puisque vous avez voulu que je parle de cela. Et je crois que nous devrons un jour nous asseoir, avoir même ce débat sur le plan de la technique juridique. Là, je n'ai donné que quelques arguments essentiels. On pourra. J'ai eu, lorsque, dans les années 90, des collègues à l'université, de la partie anglophone, remarquables juristes avec qui on a eu ce débat, on peut le poursuivre. Et je voudrais que, si la théorie de la souveraineté populaire a un sens, cela veut dire que, c'est-à-dire qui peut le plus, peut le moins. J'ai dit en tant que souverain, je défais, j'ai fait en tant que souverain, je défais en tant que souverain. Si on était passé par l'Assemblée, effectivement, ce serait contestable. Parce que l'Assemblée n'est que, voilà, représentant du souverain. Mais quand le souverain agit lui-même, tu ne peux plus dire qu'il n'aurait pas dû agir dans tel sens ou tel autre. Voilà la différence, toute la différence. Donc, je voudrais que le moment venu qu'on s'assoie, on parle de ces choses-là. Et ça ne devrait pas être quelque chose d'insurmontable. Ne faisons pas des constructions. Je lis beaucoup, hein, y compris ce qu'on dit sur moi, de moi, enfin, contre moi. Les gens ont dit, oui, mais il faudra qu'on aille enseigner à Kamto que l'Ambazonie existe avant même 1884. C'est pas ça le sujet. Ça peut exister, ça peut avoir existé depuis le Moyen-Âge, ça ne change rien à l'affaire. C'est simplement qu'à partir d'un moment de l'histoire, il s'est constitué un État qu'on a appelé le Cameroun, qui englobait donc tout cela. Ce n'est pas moi qui ai décidé cela. Donc nous ne pouvons pas mettre quelque chose entre parenthèses et retourner à ce qui s'est fait, ce qui existait 2 ou 5 siècles avant. Nous devons partir des réalités historiques telles qu'elles se sont construites, parfois, et je dirais même souvent, avec notre propre participation. Moi, personne n'est parfait, mais dans toute ma vie, j'essaye de me laisser guider par la justice et l'équité. Par la justice. C'est tout.
When I just received a message from Kemi, who is she's saying, struggling to even watch their tribe being spurred by Kamto is really difficult. But if you guys noticed, we on ABC we have taken our time to translate everything Kamto said in English, so that Kamto should understand that the French he was speaking, we understand it, and the English we are speaking, he really does not understand, because he tries to bring in our argument a couple of times, And then I'm just typing to some folks in a platform now, and I'm telling them, listen, guys, Camto has lied to himself. It is a lie that has been packaged by French Cameroon, sponsored by France, the blessings of France, and they have lied to themselves to the extent that they even believe their own lies. I want the both of you to analyze everything you heard there interchangeably, and we'll conclude at that point. But we will definitely resume on Monday at 6 p.m. Amber time as we acknowledge what would have been done to still elaborate and talk about this. Please, the floor is yours, barristers. Any one of you can start. Barrister Fru, perhaps.
Yes, I have never. And Canto is a well-renowned professor in the French world, but I did not know he was this intellectually dishonest, totally dishonest. Let me start. I'll start where he started. The 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 whole of Cameroon with K was 800,000 square miles or meters, right? Now,
Yeah.
now it is, according to him, including us, is now 475. What happened to 350? He forgets to tell his listeners that Gabon was part of Cameroon with K. That parts of Equatorial, what do they call the Congo, was part of the German Cameroon.
He actually but claims that they are still.
Wait, let me finish. That he claimed that the rest, of course, was the northern Cameroon. That is this intellectual dishonesty. The Cameroon with K that the Germans occupied included the southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon. That's 1884, including Gabon and part of the Congo. If this thing has reduced like this, it is because of the referendum, so-called referendum of 1961, that the Southern Cameroons was forced to vote to join them, to have independence by joining them. And now, the way he interprets, the way he talks about this whole thing, he carefully avoided Resolution 1608 and its implications. What was decided in Fumban? Who signed what in Fumban? Nobody. Nothing. Nothing. They brought a federal constitution, which was their constitution, he admitted, their constitution that was carefully tailored into the federal constitution, and they took it back without the approval of the delegation of the Southern Cameroon's government. Poncha was the problem. Endele, Dua, who were in the delegation, had proposed that they should abandon that conference. Poncha said, let's try it for about 30 years and see how it goes. And that is where the problem is. And this is where I've always called Poncha a traitor, because he did not listen to his delegation. Now, that's not the point. The point is, Camto has carefully avoided Resolution 1608. If to him, Southern Cameroon was part of their country, what was the reason for Resolution 1608 and the referendum? He did not even talk about the referendum in form. The referendum came about because the British and the French did not introduce the third farm, that the third resolution, the rare resolution of the Monthly Conference of 1959, which our people voted to have their independence. And so they rammed it down our throat that we have to choose between two countries. In fact, La Republique was not even in the monthly conference. It was never mentioned in the monthly conference about La Republique du Cameroon. The question was between Nigeria and having independence or joining Nigeria. And our people voted overwhelmingly to have their independence. What happened in the United Nations is left for Poncha and La Republique du Cameroon to explain. Because the will of the people of the Southern Cameroon was never taken into consideration. Kamto avoided to talk about that referendum. He avoided to talk about Resolution 1608 and talked about Fumban when nothing took place in Fumban. There was no Treaty of Union. Because if you look at Resolution 1608, it talks about the parties meeting to decide on which policies will be applied in the new in the government that they are going to form. Did that take place? Has he read that? Has he interpreted that? That's why I call him. He knows all that. He is very well schooled on all that, but he carefully avoided to talk about that. And in Fumban, they brought a constitution that we have never seen. The Southern Cameroon's parliament never saw it. Nobody saw it. They brought it and took it back and promulgated it into law. And on the 1st of October, 30th of September, they just came into our territory and took over our territory. Is the federal constitution the Treaty of Union as envisaged in Resolution 1608? Let come to answer that. I would like to see if this thing has to go into International Court of Justice. We, the lawyers of the Southern Cameroons, would like to see how Kamto will show that resolution, that Treaty of Union, the federal constitution represented that Treaty of Union. And who were the participants in that monthly conference? Was there a conference as envisaged by Resolution 1608? No. Why can he not be honest as an intellectual to bring that to light? I am flabbergasted. I want to say Kamto is one of the dishonest politicians we have in La Republique du Cameroon. But hey, when his brothers and sisters were being chased during the Makiza period, we housed them. Today he's fighting against us. Okay, is that the reason for the war? Is that the reason for declaring war against us? Because we were their territory? Let me end there.
Master Mbesa, you have been waiting, please. The floor is yours. Like I said, the both of you should analyze it from different angles. Let's ride on, please. Analyze it and we'll come back to. We're going to continue this conversation on Monday, but I think it's important for us to analyze it now.
Yes, I will plead with you that we'll revisit this thing many times. Why? Because this video, what Kamto is saying, is absolutely important. Because Kamto, first, is a politician. He is very, very likely to be the next president in 2 years. We'll probably be heading East Cameroon when the final phase of this struggle is. So he's a politician that we cannot ignore. Secondly, Kamto is a lawyer. Even his critics over there, Beada is a very powerful lawyer. So I take everything that he says politically serious.
It's important. Yes.
Legally serious. So it's not a thing that we'll discuss in one session. No. It's a very important matter.
Yeah.
And because he occupies that position, we should analyze. That's why in our earlier debate, I said, look, I'd rather spend my time talking about Kamto than talking about a certain man they call Muja Muja, because it's of no consequence. But this is Kamto. I would not like to generalize it. Kamto has done a good job. And this is what he has done. Kamto has analyzed a good number of facts correctly. He has narrated the facts correctly, some of them, or most of them. But his conclusion, legally, is just wrong. Let me start. He says, Cameroon Wuke, there was nothing like Cameroon until 1884, during the partition for Africa, when the Cameroon Wuke was given as a protectorate to Germany. He's right. That's perfectly right. Then he goes down to say, that entity Cameroon given to Germany, when Germany lost the war in Europe, that Cameroon lost the war with Germany in Africa. He's right. And he says further, Sanso might have missed it, that parts of the Cameroon Wuke are today in Gabon. He says so. Some are in Chad. He says so. Some are in Central, Brazzaville.
Congo.
He says so. Yes, Congo, Brazzaville. He mentions all that. That is true. But the mistake, his conclusion, which is totally wrong, is this. He concludes by saying that the 800,000 square meters were taken, 400 were taken away, and then they left us. In other words, he said they left Cameroon Wuke with 400,000. No. His original conclusion that Cameroon K lost the war with Germany in 1916 is correct. Cameroon K died. That is why from 1916, the Cameroon was never spared again with K. That Cameroon with K died. And so they have no reason to think that they inherited the one-half geographical border portion of Cameroon and became the successor state. That's just not true. That's a wrong conclusion. So it's legally wrong there, even though his facts were right. Then he goes on to say, yes, from 1921, from the League of Nations, through United Nations Trust Territories, the two Cameroon became territories under international law. That is right. And he goes further to say, look, in 1946, Great Britain, or UK, and France were authorized each to lead its own portion of the territory to international sovereignty. He's right. He's very, very right. That's what was written in the trust agreement.
Correct.
And he says that La République de Cameroon got independence on 1st of January 1960 without West Cameroon. He's perfectly right there. So let's just give him credit for all this. So he's right there. Then what is the problem? He goes on to analyze the problem, and that's where he goes wrong. He says in 1960.
It's not that he does not know. It's not that he does not know. He knows.
I don't know. I've simply said it's wrong. He goes down to 1961 plebiscite and says that there were two plebiscites organized. Yes, one was organized in the north before the other one was organized in both north and south. And then he says the people of Northern Cameroon voted to reattach themselves with Nigeria, while the people of Southern Cameroon voted to reattach themselves with East Cameroon. No, we did not vote to reattach. That's the wrong conclusion.
That is right.
We did not vote to reattach.
He knows.
Them. So it was not reattachment, which is what they have been calling reunification now. That was not the objective of the plebiscite. It never said reattachment. It said we will get independent by joining. It's not by rejoining.
By joining.
Yeah, not rejoining. So there he is right. He's very, very right there. Wrong, we do not reattach. Northern Cameroon did not reattach. We simply join. And we're supposed to join on specific conditions. But before you get to the Fumban conference, remember that the plebiscite, after it was done, before it was done, The United Nations had appointed a United Nations plebiscite officer, an Iranian, to come oversee the plebiscite in the northern and southern Cameroon. The guy did not just come to Boya, he went to the Foreign Office in England, in London, to find out what are the preparations that have been made for this unification thing. And if you read this book, you have the opportunity to read the book, The British Southern Cameroon, 1922 to 1961, a study of colonialism and on the development by Manuel Aka. He says in page 244, and if you permit, let me just read it, page 244. He says there, if you permit me, another meeting between Ahidjo and Foncha took place from 10 to 14, 1960, and the communique signed by Ahidjo, Prime Minister Charles Asale, and Foncha contained an outline of a draft constitution. Among other things, the draft stated that the territory shall be unified as a federal sovereign state outside the British Commonwealth and the French community. The majority, that is, the country of its interest. Meanwhile, these developments were going on. This is what Mr. Abdul wrote. Mr. Abdul, plebiscite commissioner, Mr. Jalai Abdul of Iran, was making preparations to leave for the Cameroons, where he would supervise the plebiscite in both territories. First, he traveled to Britain in order to have a full information on the arrangement of the plebiscites, but in particular, to be briefed on the constitutional arrangements in case the people voted to join the Republic of Cameroon. This is what the British government told him. He learned from the colonial office that although the terms for joining Nigeria had been well spelled out, those for joining the Republic of Cameroon were still to be worked out. That Foncha had, however, met with Ahidjo on a number of times and issues. The idea of a federation was agreed. Nevertheless, the Secretary of State for Colonies pointed out much to be done later on. But what surprised this guy when he got there, all the meetings that Foncha held with Ahidjo in the interim, Foncha was signing those things not as a prime minister of Southern Cameroon. He signed as the leader of the majority party, the KNDP. So Mr. Abdul noted here and asked Foncha, why is signing this not as a prime minister? Foncha said, no. It's still negotiation. By the time I signed this thing as a prime minister, the whole government was involved. So I could not sign this thing as prime minister. And so there was no agreement. And that would tell you why Resolution 1608 states in paragraph 2 that on 1st of June 1961, Northern Cameroon will get independence by joining Nigeria as a separate province of Northern Nigeria, as a separate province. 2, Southern Cameroon will get independence on 1st of October by joining Cameroon. They didn't say in what capacity. They will join them. But it did not end there. That's why they went further to say, look, but before 1st of October, let the 3 governments sit down and iron out officially the agreement Foncha was signing as a party leader with Ahidjo. That's what paragraph 5 of 1608 is about. The United Nations had that information, but it had not become formal. Fast forward, this was in April 21st. Came July, there was this so-called Fumban Conference. Where did the Fumban Conference fall in this decolonization process? Who was the convener of the Fumban Conference? The convener of the Fumban Conference was Ahidjo. He did not co-chair the meeting with Foncha. No, it was Ahidjo alone. The E4 within resolution 16085, no, because the UK was not there. I'm not inventing it. I have a whole bunch of documents here. This from the Prime Minister's office. All this is the Fumban Conference, July 17 to July 21st. It says those who attended, the delegation that were Fumban, by their names, what they proposed there, and what was not proposed. So where did Fumban fall? Fumban was an initiative of Ahijo, just like the previous meetings I said in Boya. Come to the right. They had other meetings, but they were not binding. That's why you find Professor Ngo. We talk about what they call exchange of notes. These were forms of negotiations, which are even allowed today. You are allowed to negotiate a contract by exchanging notes. If I say I want to sell a house, you send me an email. That's a note. My house is being sold for $1,000, $100,000. You write to me, okay, you have proposed 1,000. I'm giving you 50,000. I say no. There must be a time that we agree. Exchange of notes is not binding without the final agreement. There must be a time that we say, okay, we have settled on $75,000, $100,000, or whatever amount. So all that discussion that was going on in Fumban was just informal. Yes, Foncha was there with the delegation, but the British were not there. Why was the presence of the British absolutely important? Cameroon was an independent country. They had a foreign minister. British Cameroon was still under Great Britain. Under Great Britain, under their colonial status, they did not have an army of their own. They did not have a minister of foreign affairs. They could not commit to anything with any country in the world because they didn't have that power to legislate for foreign affairs. So in the absence of Britain, where does Fumban fall? Which I said I have all the details. I'm trying to compile this into a form of booklet that everybody can read. Where does Fumban fall? And then Camtro says the Anglophones have a point because they came to Fumban to discuss the constitution, which they saw for the first time. He's right. They came there, they handed a copy of the constitution for the first time. Camtro is right, where he says the British Cameroon delegation led by Foncha said, okay, now we have this document, we'll go back and look at it and come back with our own response. That was right. But what did Ahijo do? Ahijo said, no, but don't go. No. And they didn't go to consider that document. So when did the document become binding on them? I have seen this report from the Prime Minister's office in Boya in 1961. I have not seen the agreement they reached on the Constitution. This was in July. Then fast forward, came September 1st, just 30 days after. They come out with this document, which is called the Federal Constitution. Even though Camto says that it was the Constitution of East Cameroon amended, I've read through this document. There's no place inside suggesting there was even a constitution on anybody. It does not say that it went through any parliament. Nothing. It didn't go through the parliament of East Cameroon. At least this document is in writing. It doesn't say that any parliament approved of it. It just simply say, oh, with effect from 1st October, the Federal Republic will be formed, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, it is signed by Ahijo. 1st of September 1961 as the president. If this thing were to be taken seriously, because this very document says that Foncha, the prime minister, will become the vice president. He was the leader of a government. He should have had the signature of Foncha there as the vice president to show that he consented to it, and the signature of Ahijo there as the president to show that they had a joint consent. This document does not state that. Doesn't state that. So how did it become binding on British Southern Cameroon? How did it become binding? So Mr. Comto is wrong here. He says Anglophones were unhappy. Yes. In law, it can go, sometimes people enter into contracts by error. Even 10 years after some time, you say, no, this thing was an error. You look for a remedy to resolve that issue. And the earlier you react, you discover the error and start to react, the better for you. That is why in law, there's a principle that equity, delay defeats equity. If you're looking for an equitable solution to your problem and you sleep on your right, you will defeat it. So in 1961, this thing came out. Did the Anglophones ever sleep over their rights? No. From that 1961, they've been locking up people for protesting against this nonsense. They have gone to all courts in the world. So Anglophones, Southern Cameroonians have never slept on their rights since 1961. They've been fighting, and today we're still fighting. And so Camto's legal argument doesn't hold, because he says, he goes forward to a referendum and say, well, a referendum is a national issue. That's the sovereign, as compared to Article 47. What he did not say, what he did not say is that the plebiscite that resulted in the so-called federation was conducted only in Southern Cameroon. Only we voted. It was a right to vote or not to vote. The Republic had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. The other man who would have something to say, who pretended to have something to say, was Ahidjo. Ahidjo was the president. But you will remember that Ahidjo himself was never elected president. The Republic had independence 1st of January 1961, as he put it, yes. But they had independence, 1, without any elections. 2, without any constitution. The constitution which they claim to have been amending to put this one was drawn up in 1960 March, 4 months after independence. So they never had any independence. Ahidjo was never an elected leader, even though he started claiming to be doing it for that, for all of them. He was not elected because there was never any election in East Cameroon until 1964. Nobody elected him. There was no elected assembly until 1964. So where does Senior Camto come about with this conclusion? His conclusions are just wrong. Yes, if the Anglophones were in Fumban, and so they agreed or did not agree, that does not bind them. For such a decision to be binding, there's a procedure. One child who was the leader of the delegation, his signature is nowhere here. His signature is not there. He should simply have signed this document as the vice president, just like he signed as president. He did not sign. So how does it bind us? So Mr. Camto is sometimes very wrong. He postulates some facts correctly, but his legal conclusions are just wrong. Just wrong. And good enough, he realizes, I say it is too complicated, but he would like to sit down and talk. That's what he says. He would like this debate to be had. And I wish he has the opportunity to have that debate. The few Anglophones who will be there, called them Anglophone Ambazonians, we will to point out these facts, even if we are dead. These are documented evidence. These books are all available in the market for anybody to buy. These books there. These ones, you can get them. I got them from the archives in Mboya. So that is this. That is what it is. Again, what Camto says is important because it's a political leader, likely to succeed Paul Biya. What Camto says is important because he's a renowned lawyer. They hold him in very high esteem over there. Because according to them, he fought the Bakassi case at The Hague and won for them. So he's a man, even Paul Biya doesn't like him. He respects him legally. And so we take his words with care. We look at his legal views with careful analysis. And that is what it is. I hope the opportunity will come. when we shall confront Mr. Kamto, or his legal experts on a discussion table to analyze this thing, to let him know and let them know, because he's speaking for God, that the Cameroon with K died and was buried. Cameroon of East Cameroon under France did not represent Cameroon with K. The 1946 trust agreement did not foresee that. They didn't say that. No, they said, look, go and minister your own territory to independence. It was not only in southern Cameroon. It was in Tanganyika. That was the German colony. It was in Togo. That was a German colony. It was in Namibia. And so it was not new. None of those countries that went under the United Nations trust system ever emerged joining with, because that was never contemplated in 1946. The only one that ever had that tough thing were two of the territories that were handed to Great Britain. Cameroon, under the UK administration, and Togo, British Togo land, where they purported to organize another plebiscite there, rather than giving them independence, and asked them to join Ghana, which they did. They refused to give them independence. And so it is the machination of the British who did all this for the unselfish reasons. It is not because they didn't know, they knew it. They knew it very, very well. That's why, even from this, not this book, there's another book I read there. Throughout the year that the UK administered so-called Northern Cameroon, while the South, which is Southern Cameroon, was evolving. What schools, what governments, what institutions? We even had Sase College opened in 1948. In the whole Northern Cameroon, there was nothing there. They had 4 primary schools from 1922 to 1961. They had 4 primary schools. So they did not want these people ever to think of coming back to join, to work together with Southern Cameroon, what they call it, as a separate trust territory. It was well orchestrated by the UK, imposed on the UN General Assembly. If you read Resolution 1352, it states there in black and white, at the request of the administering authority and the insistence of the administering authority that there should be 2 plebiscites in the UK administered Cameroon. We therefore wrote that those plebiscites should take place between this day and this date. It's written there in black and white. Come to can go and read it. Any of us can go and read it. And so that is my take. I think we need a lot of time to analyze what Campto said, because Campto is important, very, very important politically, very, very important legally. And so we'll have another opportunity to revisit it. I think for me, I don't just talk. I talk with documents. I have the documents here. I have a chain of knowledge.
Yes, I think we're coming back here Monday 6 p.m. Amba time before Barrister Fruit goes to work. We're going to come back here and have a conversation for 2 hours, and we'll be interpreting whatever would have left the assembly as they are working tonight and tomorrow. But before that,
if it is 2 hours, then you have to bring it back to 11, because I will be very close to me leaving for work. Now, what I wanted to say is that the facts presented by Campto, most of them are correct. My problem is that his facts do not match the law. That's why I call him intellectually dishonest, because we know him for being a very good lawyer. He has carefully avoided certain aspects of his presentation. Did you hear him talk about the UN Resolution 1608? No. He never mentioned it. And now, let me tell you another dishonesty. Read Article 47, Barrister, if you have it, of the Federal Constitution. Article 47 that was violated. It says what?
Yeah.
Article 47.
Can you read it for me? Wait, hold on. Let Barrister read it.
Amendment of the Constitution, that's part 10. Article 47(1). No bill to amend the Constitution may be introduced if it's sent to impair the unity and integrity of the Federation. 2.
Yes.
Bills to amend the Constitution may be introduced either by the President of the Federation after consultation with the Prime Ministers of the Federated States or by any members of the Federal Assembly, provided that any bill introduced by a member, that's not important. So it says, paragraph 1, no bill to change the character of the Federation shall be accepted. As simple as good morning. It's in black and white. This is
Yes.
their own constitution.
But how does that how does a referendum cure their violation of Article 47?
Mr. Fru, as you are even reading that, what I wanted to say there is that is giving a fake federal constitution because that was not promulgated
Yes,
by
we agree.
Yes.
We agree. Except that our people have accepted it by acquiescence.
Yeah.
And if the federal constitution in its Article 47 did not exclude, it said no bill. That bill, I see telling me that a referendum will not result to, is not a bill. It's a bill presented to the people.
Yeah.
He's still telling me that there's a difference between taking it to the assembly and bringing it to the sovereign people. The sovereign people are there to vote a bill presented by the government in the form of a referendum. The assembly is there to prepare to deliberate on a bill prepared by government. The question of no bill that will impede the federation. He carefully made a dichotomy between a bill being presented to Parliament and a referendum. It's in violation of Article 47. He justified that.
Yeah.
And I think that is intellectually dishonest because he knows that a referendum is a bill presented directly to the population, to the people.
Yeah.
He knows. I'm saying that a good lawyer, an honest lawyer, will apply the facts, the law to will apply the facts to the law and ensure that the facts fit the law. He has carefully avoided certain facts, like the question of a plebiscite. He did not elaborate on that. He just brushed it because that plebiscite had a reason.
Let Barrister Sim read out something. Read it, please.
Let me just read this quote.
Yes.
I told you of Mr. Amba who went to London, and this is what he concluded. Quote, this statement was signed by Mr. Funcha in his personal capacity and was issued by him as a statement of the intentions of the party he leads. The Southern Cameroon government. The Southern Cameroon government was neither a party to the resolutions nor to the declaration contained in the outline of this proposed constitution. Containing the outline proposal was not an authoritative statement made on behalf of the Southern Cameroon. So we Funcha signed all these things. As an individual.
I want to use that to compare what's happening today. It's like Scapo and a few others like Chris Arno going to sign a referendum that we as Ambazonians are rejecting. They sign it as group. You understand? Even though they were not.
Of course, they are not pretending to
go and sign a referendum today. Because Capo is pushing through the agenda of a referendum, which we think is not a discussion for today.
It's not.
So if we are concluding on this point, I want to first of all say thank you very much.
Before you conclude, one more point.
Yes.
Independence by joining.
Yeah.
When that joining fails, does your independence fail?
Now your independence doesn't.
It doesn't fail. You were given independence, but you have to join. But if you don't join, what happens? If they think that the independence failed, they should revisit it and regularize your problem. The joining failed, but the independence stayed because we were being prepared for independence.
Yeah.
If you look at Resolution 1352 that Barrister cited, the territories were given for preparation for independence. And if they did not want to give us independence directly, they said, we have independence by joining. And if the joining fails, what is the remedy?
This is something I want to say, just to agree with you all. Is for those who are saying that it was not a unification, though it was a failed unification, and they are trying to say that it was a reunification. Capital, as an international lawyer, should be able to interpret international law effectively. By international law, when you are defeated at war, you lose your legality or your sovereignty over a jurisdiction, which by interpretation, Germany lost the right.
No, let me also add. You don't only. Let me also add. You don't only lose when you lose your sovereignty. You retain something international in law called self-determination. At all times, you can exercise the right to self-determination.
No, that is now. That's a good argument.
Germany has never come back. Listen, Paddy, has never come back to assert any authority over the lost territories after the First World War. They have not come back to assert anything. The Republic was not a colonial master. They cannot assert any authority over us.
Yeah,
cannot.
We are subject of international law. If the Southern Cameroon existing today, if there's Ambazonian, it is based on UN resolutions. It is based on the UN Charter. Full stop.
And that was just the fountain.
Yeah.
That was just the fountain I was reading from that to something. Just permit me.
I just wanted to end here. That there's nothing in international law at the United Nations that once you enter into an agreement, you must remain there until you die. There's nothing like that.
No.
Any agreement that you freely go into it, you can freely opt out of it. That's just normal. There's no agreement that when you marry a woman, you must die in the house. You can divorce.
Let me also add a last thing. If you read Resolution 1608, paragraph 5, and read the Charter, paragraph 102, you tie it together. There must be a treaty between the parties for joining.
Yeah.
And that's why Resolution 1608, paragraph 5 indicated. And it was inspired by the Charter in its Article 102. Any country can opt to join another one to become one country, but you must respect the Charter 102. So they actually spelled it out in 1608, paragraph 5. And if you read that paragraph 5, you read the Charter 102, you will see that it was inspired by that Charter 102. And Mr. Kamto has done everything to avoid the UN Charter, to avoid the UN resolutions, he has not talked about any UN resolution throughout his presentation. It's not favorable to their cause. At any rate,
I was just trying to agree with the both of you by making this interpretation that you didn't permit me to make. I was interpreting and saying that common sense, interpreting international law and its application. If you are saying that these states were reuniting you are by implication as an international lawyer, and that's the foolishness in what Kamto said that a lot of people did not get. You are saying by implication that though Germany was defeated, they still had a right over the League of Nations Category B trusteeship territories. These territories had gained another jurisdiction and identification and became something else when the war order changed and when there was a transition between the League of Nations and the United Nations. So,
And I don't
anybody,
see them. I don't see them.
anybody,
I don't see
anybody
them.
interpreting it as though it was a reunification, you are saying that even after the war that Germany was defeated, Germany still had a right over that territory, which is a fallacy. Go ahead,
They
please.
should have also taken Gabon because they had independence before Gabon. They should have
And
also
talk about
thought. They should have also
becoming
thought
Gabon.
Gabon. Yes,
Yeah.
or even Equatorial Guinea and Congo and part of Chad. They should have fought. They should have fought to bring back their country.
The guy said they get on to Gabon and then they left us. They left us with 400 square kilometers. They left us the mother country.
It's a very dishonest intellectual.
Who are the us? Then they left this 400 square kilometers too. As long as you're not claiming parts of K in Gabon, parts of K in Congo.
No, we're not claiming part of K. I'm saying that if he thinks that we were all part of K that he's claiming.
No, I'm talking to them that as long as they're not claiming parts of K in Gabon, parts of K in Chad, parts of K in Congo Brazzaville, they cannot claim parts of K in Ambazonian.
Part of K in Southern Cameroon.
Yeah, no,
that is it.
They cannot claim any part of K there because we're never K anymore.
Yes. And if you look at the population of Gabon and our population, we are 3 times bigger than Gabon.
That is nothing.
What is inspiring La Republic is our resources. Let's call it spade a spade.
We're going to get into that on Monday as we come to interpret the document and showcase to the public what the House probably will be agreeing on. But I want to say thank you very much. We've had a long day. We've been live for more than 6 hours just to cover the extraordinary Constituent Assembly session that was called upon by the President. And I would say that today, history was made in a very, very instrumental way. Thank you all very much. I want to wish you a beautiful weekend as you rest and enjoy your life with your families. Today, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia once again had his legitimacy and his leadership entrusted by the Ambazonian people. Mr. President's vision has not only been cherished by many who understands the historicity and the legality of the current freedom movement, his people who believe in his vision have once again demonstrated their trust in his leadership. Today we saw a people, an entourage of stakeholders from every continent and almost every country of the world, close to 130 stakeholders forming the Constituent Assembly of Ambazonia, overwhelmingly agreeing with the President to make some adjustments as we prosecute this war. If you would permit me, I'd like to read out some of the resolutions and conclusions. According to the stakeholders' resolutions this evening, number 1, a resolution authorizing the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia to present a full restoration bill amending the constitution of the interim government as follows. A, to change the name of interim government to the government of Southern Cameroons and or the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Number 2, a resolution to adopt a new coat of arms and the C or emblem for the government of Southern Cameroon as presented. Number 3, a resolution to change the name of the interim constitution by restoring the name Revolutionary Orders in Council. Number 4, a resolution to change the name of the interim House of Representatives to the Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly and restore the House of Chiefs. That is what was when we were a sovereign territory in the late 1950s. Number 5, a resolution authorizing the president to keep master access to all government platforms and websites. Number 6, a resolution authorizing the government to trademark all important intellectual properties belonging to the government of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian. By implication, this is now my interpretation. By implication, we are saying that anyone who gets lofty and chooses to break out through a Zoom meeting like Anus and the Mariantas did, they will not own any right to use a name. Since the word interim government or the phrase interim government was blundered by the leaders who came together after Zara, Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia has opted that today he will present to the people that in this time of history, we need to correct a mistake that could frustrate our argument as a people, as we in the international community. The president is saying that Foncha Endeli never carried with them any form of an interim government. These individuals had a government of full stature, and since we have come to correct a historical fraud and we have restored, that was on the 30th of September 2017, via the voice of former President Sisiko. President Sako is saying that their calculation had a limitation, and as we evolve, we have to correct that historical error. We have restored an independence that was stolen, and we are actualizing it. Therefore, the government as it was will also be actualized, and it starts from today. And the Constituent Assembly, out of excitement, overwhelmingly, I would say, with a minimum of at least 99%, overwhelmingly accepted that option and voted a yes. We are waiting to hear what the deliberations of the Interim House of Representatives, whose name also will be changed back into the original name. We're waiting to get a document that probably should be published by them starting tomorrow evening. And on Monday at 6 p.m. Ambazonia time, we'll be live again with a more enlarged panel to observe, analyze, and talk to the international community the resolve of Ambazonia. It is important to understand that the emancipated generation or the never again generation of Ambazonia will never ever be intimidated or manipulated by any man, born or woman, or system of Franco-Cameroon hegemony. Ambazonia is free, and it is free indeed. The biggest form of freedom is when you have been free mentally. And today is one of those days when Ambazonians celebrate their freedom, their intellectual freedom from a Franco-Cameroon mafia and enslavement. Thank you very much for participating in this extraordinary program, and see you on Monday. Stay tuned. We will leave you with ABC Amba TV images. This is Tapari King.